So, welcome to GE 102, where we're going to start working with an Arduino. Hopefully you've already picked up your kit like this, and in this video I'm going to walk you through identifying the main components in the kit and our first step of assembly. I won't walk you through wiring every circuit in future weeks, but I just wanted to help you get through the process of assembling the basic parts of your kit so that everyone does it the same way, and that when you turn the kits back in, everything's set up correctly. So go ahead and open up your kit. This kit is called an Arduino ARDX kit, and that ARDX is kind of an open source standard that was developed by a company called Umlaut a while ago, and then it's been free licensed to other companies over the years to make similar kits. So you have this experimenter's guide that you need to make sure you keep this. This is going to be kind of your textbook for working with the hardware part of the Arduino. So you can see there's different circuits you're going to wire in there. So during this first week, I want you to read through from this front cover through page 7, I think it is. Yeah, through page 7, and then page 8 we'll start on next week will be the first circuit you'll build that involves more than just the Arduino. So go ahead and glance through over the licensing information, and then we're gonna I'm gonna walk you through the steps of putting together these basic pieces, and then you're gonna install the software. You can follow the guidelines on the Arduino site for that. But these next couple of pages, I want you to read through all of this during the first week. All the information in here is fair game for me to ask you on our week 1 quiz. So read through this and try to kind of, you don't have to memorize it by any means, but get a sense of some of the basics of what we're going to be working with. This page talks about code and some basic hardware stuff. And then this next page is helping you identify each of the components in the kit, telling you what it does, how to identify it when you're building a circuit, how to find the resistance value of resistors based on their color code, etc. So just some useful information. So read through pages basically from the front cover through page 7 this week. And then what we're going to walk through right now is completing this assembly that they show you on page 2, where we're going to mount the Arduino to the acrylic base plate and also add the breadboard to it, so that in the future you can build circuits on the breadboard and connect it to the Arduino. So looking through the kit, I'm just going to pull the pieces out as we go through them. Your Arduino is probably still in its box. Let's see if I still have my box around here. So you probably have something's in its box like that. You can go ahead and open it up. And something that's new this year compared to previous year is that your Arduino is already likely on a small acrylic base plate, so that if you weren't buying it as part of this kit, you would still have something that you could sit it on. So we definitely want to keep that base plate as part of the kit, but we're not going to use it right now on this particular way we're setting it up. So Arduino, that's the heart of your programming. This is the heart of the hardware that we're going to be working with. This right here, this chip, is the actual microcontroller chip. And then you can see it has a USB port to connect to your computer, and it has a power port if you're gonna power it when it's not connected to your computer. You can do that using this battery pack that would plug in right there. So, but we're not going to be using that, so just make sure you leave the battery pack in your kit so that it's there when you return it. There will be a check-in list when you return these kits that verifies all the components that it went out with all came back. And this year we have all new kits, so everything's good going out, so make sure everything comes back in. Other things to look at on the Arduino as you're just starting to look at it, up here in this corner right here is the reset button. That's how you kind of reboot the computer if you need to, reboot the microcontroller without unplugging it if you need to do that, and you will do that this very first week. And then these headers where you can connect wires like these are how we're going to connect this Arduino microcontroller board to our breadboard in future weeks as we build hardware that interfaces with the microcontroller. Okay, so biggest, most important piece, your Arduino, and it happens to have a small acrylic board with it. So save all that, everything that comes in this kit, save it, including the packaging. So when you turn this back in next year, we want the Arduino to be in its box, etc. Okay, next kind of big thing in here are some jumper wires. Like I said, these are just how we're going to connect from the Arduino to our breadboard. Then you have some bags of different parts. This bag here has a series of resistors, mainly resistors. The resistors are the brown ones that have colored stripes on them, and then there's a couple diodes as well. And the diodes, so resistors are these here, brown stripes, and then the diodes are those two there that are kind of a black tube with a gray bar on one end. Then you have a bunch of different LEDs. LED stands for light emitting diode, and you have some red ones, some green ones, a big white one, and then you've got one that has maybe 4 legs on it, and we'll talk about that. That's an LED that can be either red, green, blue, or all at the same time, so that you can adjust the color of that one. Then in this last pocket here, we got some push button switches, some transistors, a photo sensor, you're going to be using that one, and then some header pieces. So some more hardware components that you'll learn more about what those are as you read pages, is it 4? No. Page 6 and 7. So as you're reading through these, make sure that you can find each of these components in your kit. Okay, moving on, you have this bag that is not opened yet. It's a piece of foam, and let me go ahead and open it. If you pull the piece of foam out, you'll see there's a number of components on the foam. In this case, there's an integrated circuit chip here. There's a potentiometer, this blue thing where you can turn the dial. That's an adjustable resistor. There's a little speaker or piezo element, and it looks like another transistor in the middle there. And then this white cube shaped thing is a relay that we'll use in one of our exercises as well. Okay, moving along, we have a bag of hardware. This is what we're going to use today to set up our baseplate, breadboard, and Arduino. And then you have one more bag that has motors in it. So the first one is a little DC motor, just this silver motor with a shaft on it, and it just has 2 wires coming out of it. The other motor is this servo. This is a micro servo, and we'll talk more about what a servo is, but it's basically a motor that instead of just running continuously, you tell it a position to go to, and it moves to that position. So that's most of the bags. The things that are left now, this is our base plate that we're going to mount the breadboard and the Arduino to. Those are both going to go on there. We'll do that here in just a minute. And then you have a bag of circuit diagrams, and these correlate to the circuits in your experimenter's guide. So here's circuit 1, and it shows you graphically what that circuit looks like in 3D, how you would build that circuit, the different components on it. And then this, let's go ahead and take out the circuit 1 sheet. And if you look at this circuit 1 sheet and kind of look at this drawing here, you can see that they're showing you that piece of paper overlaid on the breadboard. Now some students do literally overlay this on the breadboard. I actually don't encourage you to do that. It just gets complicated and students have a hard time seeing, did I actually put this in the right spot? So just use this as a guide. Don't actually lay it on top of your breadboard here and try to punch holes through it with your components or your wires. It's just a guide. Please don't punch holes in it. Don't try to put it on top of it. Just if you want to take them out of your bag and look at them, that's fine. But we're not going to be using them like it's shown, laying them on top and punching holes through it. As we get into further weeks, it'll get to where we're looking at a schematic in addition to just the three-dimensional drawing. So a schematic is a representation of the components as opposed to the physical drawing of them. So electrically, this shows us that we're connecting to our Arduino pin 13, we're going through a light emitting diode, then through a resistor, and then to ground. That's the same as what's happening out here. So next week I'll probably do one video showing how to actually wire that up for your first one, and then from then on future weeks I'll have you do it just by reading the schematic, looking at the three-dimensional picture, and using the schematic. And you can always use the videos there. Actually, I'll probably just link to those rather than recreating my own. Okay, so what we're going to do now is put the Arduino together on its base plate. So we're going to be completing the tasks on page 2. So what we need are our Arduino holder. That is this plate here. we need our breadboard. That's what this is. It's called a breadboard. And just while I'm talking to you right now, a breadboard is a way that you can connect components by sticking like wires and electrical components into the holes in each one. And each line of 5 in a row there, those are all connected underneath the breadboard. So if I put a wire into spot 1A and a separate wire into spot 1B, they're connected. Rows 1 and 2 are not connected. So basically they're in groups of 5, all A, B, C, D, E are connected, but they're not connected this way. Same thing over here. F, G, H, I, and J are all connected, but they're not connected to row 2 here. On the outer edges, this outer edge, the row is connected all the way through. And you can see there's a plus sign and a red line along it. That's because we usually use that if we're going to bring power to the board, like DC power. We'll just bring a power wire from the Arduino to any of these outer ones, and then all of those outer ones are connected. So these 5 are connected, those 5 are connected, and then along the outer edge, all that outer row is, and then all the row that is connected is in line next to the blue line. Those are connected as well. They're not connected to the red ones, just connected to each other. Okay, that's our breadboard. So baseplate, breadboard, our Arduino, and then we need 3 bolts, 3 nuts, and 3 spacers. And those are all in, where is that? This little bag right here. So go ahead and open up your bag of hardware. And let's see, I'll bring this down a little closer so we can see as we're going along. So you'll see there are 3 screws, 3 nuts, and 3 spacers. And looking at what we want to do, we want to put the screws through from on top, go through the breadboard, then through a spacer, through the base plate, and then a nut on the back side. So we said they're going to go first through the Arduino, and let's line them up to make sure we get them in the right orientation. So I'll move the screws off to the side there. There's our base plate, and you can see here the breadboard's going to go up here, the Arduino's here, and you can see they've etched on there somewhat the shape of the Arduino. So you can see the Arduino has a notch there. So if you line it up over that, you can see how it fits. Now you'll note my Arduino is still on its small base plate, so I'm going to just pull it off of that. Set that aside and keep it so you still have it when you turn it in, and we're going to install our Arduino just on this sheet. And if you put it down without the spacers, you'll notice it kind of rocks around. So that's why we have these little white plastic spacers. So the easiest way to do this is make sure you know which holes you're going through. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So they only have us do 3 of them, and it looks like they only say use at least 2, but we've got 3. So I'm going to say let's use the back 2. Actually, let's use the front 2 and this back one here. So the easiest way to make this work is put your 1 screw through, then slide a spacer over it, and then, sorry, didn't do that so you guys could see that well. So I put my screw through the Arduino board, then I turn the Arduino over, slide the spacer onto the screw, so it's in there. Okay, and I'm going to change which holes I told you to use, because if you look at it, you can see I'm having a hard time getting that screw tight. That's because the head of the screw they provided runs into the header there. So let's try these other ones. Hopefully the other ones work. Yeah, so that one's fine right there. Let's check the other 2. Yep, and the other, so those are going to be the 3 that we're going to use. So we're learning as we go here. Okay, so I have all 3 of them in there. I'm going to put the spacer on one of them and then line that up with the hole in the breadboard or in the base plate. And then while I hold it together with my thumb, I'm going to just loosely put that nut on it. Okay, and then now I've got to get the other ones in there, so I will lift the screw up a little bit. And so do them one at a time now. So lift that up, spin it to where I can get the next spacer on it. So, okay, spacer's on there, then rotate to where I can get it to set down. So you can see we've got screw, Arduino, spacer, and now I need to put another nut on it. And then I'll do the last one we said is going to be this one over here. So once again, put the screw through the Arduino. This one will be the hardest one maybe to line up the, see if we can twist it enough to line up get the spacer on while it's upside down. Looks like we can, great. So just make sure you leave these back ones loose until you get all three of them in place. Okay, so now I've got all three spacers. Get my last nut on there. Okay, so they're all loose right now. So then I will take a screwdriver, just a small screwdriver, and tighten up the nuts. And please do this because if you leave the nuts loose, they'll vibrate loose over the time of the term, and then you won't have it attached to the nice board. And hopefully you can just tighten them up by hand. If you need to hold the back, just either get a small adjustable wrench or a pair of pliers to hold the nut as you tighten the screws down. Okay, so we now have our Arduino installed, but you'll notice it rocks all around because we got these nuts sticking out of the back, right? The screws and nuts back there. So the last piece in your hardware kit is these little feet, the little standoff feet. And they're just adhesive, so you're going to turn it over and just put them kind of near the corners. They don't have to be perfect, but out near each corner. Kind of press pretty good on them, and then turn it over and just kind of push down, rock it back and forth to really get the adhesive pushed on for those feet. And now it doesn't rock for us. Okay, last step now is to stick the breadboard on. And you can see it's going to fit kind of right up against the Arduino. One thing to note, there are bumps on one side of the breadboard and it barely fits on here. So put those bumps to the outside, to this direction, away from the Arduino, so that the breadboard can get pushed right up tight against the Arduino. So to install this, just flip it over, kind of work at the edge to get this yellow paper, the protective film off it, pull it off, and then just line it up and press down on it. Okay, and that's it for hardware assembly this week. We've got our base plate mounted to our Arduino mounted to our base plate, and our breadboard mounted to our base plate. As I was putting these feet on the bottom, I realized looking at it, I don't know if yours will be like this as well, but it looks like it's white plastic on the back. That's actually a film that they didn't peel off when they should have at the manufacturing site. So if you notice that ahead of time, hopefully yours will be loose, but you can peel this white piece of plastic off if you want to. I'm not going to, since I've already got my feet on it, and you probably have as well. That's no worries. But just if you're wondering why that side looks so much different. Now that you've assembled the base plate, breadboard, and Arduino, you're ready to begin the tutorial.